very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very sorry for not being there. I got sick the last couple of days and now I'm better staying at home, but I'm very grateful to join in online. So thank you very much. I will present a paper on the connection between spirituality and sustainability of highly religious Christians. I will explain this term later on. This paper is dedicated to analyze the extent to which, on the one hand, spirituality and on the other hand, sustainability are related among highly religious Christians and what insights can be gained from this for education for sustainable development in church, in youth work, and in schools. Particular attention will be paid to attitudes and the actual behavior and the link between those and the theology. The newly published study Glaube, Klima, Hoffnung by the YMCA University in Kassel, where I'm working at, which provides empirical results on this topic, serves as my starting point today. I will start to present to you the sample so that you have a little bit better in mind whom we asked. So I will start showing you the sample. We surveyed 2,561 Christians in Switzerland and Germany, around 1,500 in Germany and around 1,000 in the German and French-speaking parts of Switzerland. Regarding their attitudes, behaviors regarding social justice and ecological sustainability, with a focus on the theological and spiritual dimensions. They were aged 14 plus, and we had an average age of 43 years. The gender was pretty equal. We had around 57.8% female participants and 41.6% male and around 1.6% diverse. The main research question aimed to investigate the influence of theology, faith, especially lived faith practice, so what we would probably call spirituality, on the attitudes and the behavior of the respondents regarding sustainability and social justice. The German sample of the study consisted out of 73.5% highly religious Christians whose classification was based on Huber's centrality scale. Maybe you have heard about that. I think I should explain it a little more so that you know what we mean with it. This validated and established measurement method from the sociology of religion distinguishes between three groups. The first one is non-religious, the second one is religious, and the third one is highly religious. For the highly religious, their faith is a strongly formative element in their life. So it's basically the biggest thing, the biggest deal, which has an impact on numerous decisions and lifestyles. The Bertelsmann Stiftung's current religion monitor, maybe you have heard about it, from 2023, shows around 51% of the German population is considered as religious, and 11% are highly religious. In our mainstream churches in Germany, so 15% of all the Catholics and 10% of all the Protestant members are highly religious. In the free churches, for example, the free Protestant churches, the figure is even a lot higher, around 3/4 of them are highly religious. The church membership distribution in our sample of our study shows that 56% belong to the Protestant church. I'm very sorry, all of my tables are in German because I couldn't change the language, but I will explain and give my best so everybody can understand. So 56% are belonging to the Protestant church, 5.3% to the Catholic, and around 31.4% to a free Protestant church. And then we have a little bit of YMCA and 8.6% of LKG, Landeskirchliche Gemeinschaft, that's in Germany, a part of the Protestant Church. It's relevant to note here that high religiosity in the Protestant context is not to be equated with evangelicalism, pietism, or even fundamentalism. Although there is in all likelihood a high proportion of highly religious people among these groups that I just mentioned, the study results clearly show that we reached a wide range of Protestant piety. Overall, it should be noted that the sample of our study is special due to this focus on religious and highly religious people. One last point to our sample. In order to classify our sample better, from a sociological point of view, the study also surveyed the affiliations to the sinus milieus. So we cooperated with the Sinus Institute, and the respondents were assigned to the new meta-milieus, one of these 10 meta-milieus, whereby the milieu location corresponded to the internal forecasts, as highly religious Christians in particular are not evenly distributed across all milieus. So we knew we wouldn't reach all of the milieus because highly religious people could not be found in all of the milieus. Nevertheless, an over and underrepresentation compared to the representative Sinus Germany milieus is striking, as I show you with the following table. So now here you can see the Kartoffelgrafik. You can see the 10 Sinus meta-milieus, and I'll show you first the 3 milieus that we couldn't reach with our study. These 3 in red, the prekäres Milieu, konsumhedonistisches Milieu, and neo-ökologisches Milieu. As with any empirical quantitative study, the access routes and the analysis of the target group are very decisive for the composition of the sample. This can be easily classified and explained using the 3 milieus that we did not reach. All of these 3 here in red have something in common because they are not religious and they are not church-going, but they tend to react critically or not at all to Christian faith. And the study, and they were therefore not reached because no highly religious people would be found in this milieu. On the other hand, those close to the church, or called the critically attached to church, are overrepresented, as also suggested by Sinus' own classification according to faith types. So according to these faith types, church only reaches 2 to 3 milieus, and these are the blue ones here. The traditional one, the conservative one, and the post-material one. These are the 3 classic churchy milieus where you can find people belonging to church and going to church. So it's not a surprise that we reached mostly these 3 milieus. So it's significant that the milieu positioning makes it clear that the entire breadth of classic church milieus, and not just those people who are already interested in the topic of sustainability, were reached, which makes the results even more credible because we can say we reached even the traditional and conservative church-going people, and not only the ones who always think green or who are anyway interested in sustainability. So now you know the sample. We will dig deeper into the results, the main part. The study results show that among highly religious Christians, there is a very clear support for the promotion of social justice and environmental sustainability. We will now start with the attitudes and the behavior regarding social justice. The average agreement with the importance of social justice is 91.1%, which is very high. The social justice behavior is also important to 83% in their self-assessment. But still, here can be seen that the overall level of agreement is very high, but there is still a small gap between the actual attitudes and the behavior. This discrepancy is already known in science under the term knowledge action gap, or maybe you know the term mind behavior gap. It is exciting that is also evident in other study results, and I will make an example so that you can understand a little better what I mean. We asked, for example, whether the respondents see unsustainable behavior as a sin. This was affirmed by 45.6%. So almost half of the people would say unsustainable behavior is a sin for me. However, when it comes to their own behavior, only 30% say that they have ever asked God for forgiveness for unsustainable behavior. So in my understanding, if I say unsustainable behavior is a sin, the logical consequence would be to ask God for forgiveness for this sin. But you can see here a big knowledge action gap. 45.6% say it's a sin, but only 30% ask God already for forgiveness. So this is only one example where we can see that practically. In the context of the theological justification for social justice, 92% of the German respondents also agreed somewhat or completely that their Christian faith encourages them to work for social justice. When asked whether social justice is already a central concern in the Christian faith, 38.2% agreed that it is already a central concern. So you can see here in the graph, the upper layer, that means 38% say the Christian social justice is already a central concern in the Christian faith. 54% say that it should be a bigger concern in the Christian faith, and only 6% disagreed. Finally, let's take a look at the actual behavior of Christians towards social justice. We start here with the upper layer. 73.2% stated that they discussed global poverty and inequality with family or friends in 2022. The agreement is even slightly higher when it comes to not buying certain products. It's 76.2%. However, it is clear to see here that the approval drops significantly when it comes to engagement with a public impact. So I already mentioned the black and the red one letters. Only 12.4% have written about it publicly, for example, in social media, and 12.5% have taken part in a demonstration, for example. So this shows us that the behavior of the highly religious Christians mainly relates to the private sphere. Now we reach the ecological sustainability. In the context of sustainability, 79.6% tend to or fully agree that they feel deeply connected with nature. And 89.7% of the Christians tend to or fully agree that nature is worth protecting because it was created by God. With regard to the church, the number is even higher. 91.4% of the German respondents also tend to or fully agree that the church should be committed to sustainability because it has a mission to protect the earth. We now see the graph again that we had earlier, but not with social justice, but with sustainability. 22.1% agree that sustainability is already a central concern in the Christian faith. This number is a little lower than earlier. However, almost 2/3, so here 64%, would like to see sustainability become more important, which is very high or higher than for social justice with, I think, 54%. So, however, the percentage of those who do not see sustainability as a central concern of the Christian faith is also slightly higher at 10.2%. All in all, these high figures are surprising because they show that the topics of social justice and ecological sustainability play an important role for almost all of the respondents, and they have arrived in the center of Christian life, or at least the desire for a stronger treatment of the topics is expressed. Another set of topics that played a central role in our study, and it's also very important for here for the ESD, are the Sustainable Development Goals, as we already heard from my speakers before. When asked about the awareness of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 28%, so almost 28% here in blue, agreed that they have heard of the SDGs, but they could not explain them to others. Almost 30% of the Germans here, 29.6%, could explain them even to others. So they have heard about them and they could explain them to others. We have a contrast study, a representative study in Switzerland, the so-called Swiss Panel Global Cooperation from 2022. And they show that only 14% of the Swiss people could explain the SDGs to others. This shows that not only the importance of the topic is high, but also that the knowledge of Christians, or here the highly religious Christians, is higher than that of the Swiss population as a whole. I hope we can also attribute this to a good ESD in church, in youth work, and in religious education. In addition, all respondents agree that goal 4, education for all, it's the red icon, is the most important for them. When we asked them which SDG is the most important for you, they answered goal 4, education for all. This also greatly encouraged us to continue to promote and expand ESD and to relate it to theology. In addition to the descriptive results, the evaluation of the hypothesis revealed 2 important findings in particular. First one is, believers who find a theological justification for their commitment, they act more sustainably. It was also found, second, that those who not only find a theological justification, but also integrate the topics of sustainability and justice into their lived faith and spirituality, act more sustainably, and now here we come, above all, are more socially committed to socio-ecological transformation. So that means that they overcome the knowledge action gap and make this gap a little smaller. They build a bridge because of their spirituality, because they reached it that they can connect their faith, their spirituality with sustainability. Accordingly, the theological justification and integration of socio-ecological issues into faith practice and spirituality are crucial in order to motivate Christians to adopt more socially just and sustainable behavior. It is therefore not surprising that in recent years there has also been an increasing theological discussion, for example, in the EKD, on the subject of transformative spirituality as an orientation for people in change processes. Knowledge alone is not enough, we know that, for a comprehensive change in value and culture as required for socio-ecological transformation. Rather, it requires emotions, habits, and a sustainable everyday practice. Here too, the church tradition and Christian ethics have a great treasure as they appeal to both the heart and the mind in many of their traditions, as we heard already with the Summer School 2024. In this context, Timothy Stacy writes that faith communities need to bring in their rituals, their myths and traditions on an optional basis, obviously, which are often missing from the otherwise secular discourse. Specifically, these could be, and now I will talk about the rituals, the myths, and the traditions. These could be rituals of listening in line with Hartmut Rosa's resonance theory. Maybe you have heard about Hartmut Rosa and his resonance theory, such as silence, prayer, meditation, fasting, or atonement and forgiveness for guilt. Ritualized moments or exercises that make us receptive to the creation around us and that enable us to relate to the world in a new way, that allow us to stop in a double sense. In German, Hartmut Rosa is using the word aufhören. That means to stop in one way, to stop our daily life, for example, our everyday activities, to stop, to break, to breathe. But also aufhören means to listen to something, aufhören, to listen to God and his creation. And in doing so, myths, we would perhaps reframe them as biblical stories and narratives, tell of the basic trust and hope in God, the conviction of an eschatological hope for the renewed world. They answer existential questions like what exists and why are we here? Visions for a life in an abundance, John 10, verse 10, for example. And traditions, such as the church year, rhythms that have been lived for centuries, the celebration of the Sabbath, and the interruption of the everyday. Feasts, for example, like Thanksgiving, what we celebrate this week. A discussion about transformative spirituality and practicing creation spirituality in the church, in youth work, and above all, in Christian educational work, such as in schools or in universities, can help to win over Christians, highly religious Christians, for socio-ecological commitment, to promote resilience and support the necessary social change. But not only that, it is also an important asset and a unique selling point of Christian climate engagement for secular contexts. It is important to strengthen people within this urgent and complex change so that they are willing and able to participate in the long term. And Christian spirituality holds a rich treasure and is able and a rich treasure for this. It takes courage to try out these forms and to understand ESD in the sense of a transformative understanding of education as a, quote, competence-orientated design of teaching as a holistic practice with head, hand, and heart, knowing, acting, and being, and thus also to overcome unsustainable understandings of education. ESD and climate education are holistic, hands, heart, head. They promote emotional touch, inner strength, as well as rethinking processes and critical reflection. It is not about adding knowledge, but about learning to reinterpret one's own perspectives on meaning. Transformative education as an aspiration for sustainable ESD also promotes sustainable practices and skills, as well as ethical and emotional engagement with social challenges. In addition to fundamental and human rights, for example, biblical and theological standards and a large fund of Christian creation spirituality can also guide our actions. Thank you very much for listening. And via this QR code or this website, you can also have a look into our study results as a whole. Thank you very much.